Today I'm going to be answering one of your art questions about getting your art career started. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. Emma writes, I was chasing advice from professional artists who have established a reasonably steady income about how to get their start as a professional. I am about to be made redundant where I work. A friend told me it may be the universe pushing me to pursue my real goals and dreams. The thing is, I haven't really a clue where or how to start making money. I thought I could make art and then sell prints, sell both if possible, start a YouTube channel, but I'm reluctant to teach because why should anyone listen to me? Work towards getting a Patreon channel. Is it better to have an audience with YouTube before doing that? I really don't know where to start. If you could lend me your wisdom, I would much appreciate it. The economy was rough at the moment, so I don't know how long I will be out of work for, but that does mean I can devote myself entirely to my art career. First, I want to address the idea of why should anybody listen to me. There's a thing called imposter syndrome, and it's kind of something that we all deal with. Even me, I've been teaching for 17 years, and every once in a while I'm like, why should someone listen to me? I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't go to school, and I think that's a part of it, as a lot of us feel like if we didn't go to college for this, how can we teach? Well, we can teach because we have the knowledge of what we're talking about and the experience. But it's not uncommon to think, why should someone listen to me? And if you're intimidated to start teaching kids first. Kids are a great way to start because they're much less critical of your teaching skills. They usually with art, they just want to have fun. And so walking them through step by step how to do something, it's going to give you a better understanding of teaching and how to word things in a way that others will understand. And again, less intimidating to teach kids, I think, than adults. But as far as starting a YouTube channel, absolutely start that. And you can start just a kids art channel if you want. I think that's a great way to go. And I don't think that there are a ton of YouTube artists teaching kids. So this may be a great market for you to jump into. YouTube has a specific thing just for kids videos. So I suspect it may be easier to break into that market in teaching kids than into the more adult and teenage class type things that a lot of other artists are doing. Now, getting started with an art business requires a lot of eggs in a lot of different baskets. So here are a few suggestions I have to get started. First, start listing smaller paintings and drawings on eBay or Etsy, especially eBay. I personally had better results selling there. And you're not going to get rich doing this. This is just one of those many baskets that you can set up. But it's an easy way to get started in selling. You don't have to have a big following yet. Yes, having a following where you can send people to your listings on eBay, that does get you bigger sales, and you can get people outbidding each other, so that will raise the price. So that is a way to go. But for me, I started before social media was really a thing. I think MySpace might have been going on at the time, or just getting started. But I just listed stuff, and if it sold, it sold. If it didn't, great. And right now with eBay, you can list things with no listing fee, so you're not out anything if it doesn't sell. They will take a percentage if it does sell, but it's not really that much. Nothing compared to what a gallery would take. So this is definitely, I think, a great way to get started. And the reason that I mentioned starting small is that if you are doing big paintings trying to sell them, sometimes shipping costs more than the painting itself. So starting smaller makes it much easier to ship, and things that cost less sell better on eBay. So you're going to have a better time selling a $50 painting than you are a $500 painting. So, and again, the smaller ones are generally going to cost less. So I think that that's a really, really great way to get started. Next, I would suggest looking and seeing if your town has any local art galleries that cater to emerging artists. I would not waste your time hitting up bigger galleries with more established artists because you're not going to be a fit for them. That doesn't mean your work isn't awesome, but a lot of times they're looking for the following, how much business you can bring to them. And the name you've built for yourself is a big deal. So finding a gallery that will work with an emerging artist is a great, great start. And that can also eventually potentially bring you in commissions. So also a great thing about working with a gallery locally. Next, get your website up and running. If you don't already have one, you need one. And really focus, make sure your website kind of features what you want people to pay attention to. For example, if you go to my website, I've got Patreon and videos and blogs teaching artists. I'm really focusing on teaching now. So that's the first thing you're really going to see on my website. If I was focused more on selling the original art at this point, then that would be the main thing that you really noticed when you went to the website. Now, while yes, my website has both those things in there, you need to make sure that what you want people to do is the first thing that they're really seeing. So if you're wanting people to hire you to paint a commission, then that should be really your main plug. When they go to your site, it needs to be very clear, hey, here are some of my commissions, this is what I do, a little bit of why they should order from you, what your experience is, anything like that. Or if you're trying to just sell original paintings that you already have finished, have some of those on that front page. Make sure that your website is built around what your call to action is. What do you want that person to do? If you want them to sign up to your email list, that needs to be a very predominant thing on your site. Just think about that in how your website is set up. I often see where a website, when you first go to it, all it is one big image. That doesn't necessarily tell the viewer a whole lot or tell the potential customer a lot. Are you selling that image? What are you doing with it? It doesn't really give a lot of information, so make sure you're doing that. And make sure with your website that you've got a lot of text explaining what you do, where you're located, at least the city. I mean, obviously I wouldn't put your address on there, but where you're located, that you take commissions, whatever that sort of thing is, have that on your front page, just little blurbs here and there. Kind of think of how a magazine is set up, where the entire article isn't on the first page, but you've got these little blurbs, these little hooks that will bring people to those articles. So make sure your website is set up in a way that is very user friendly and people know when they go there what it is you want them to do. Do you want them to buy a painting? Do you want them to sign up for a commission? Do you want them to take a class from you? And you may be thinking, well, I already have Facebook, I have Twitter, I've got social media, I don't need a website. Absolutely not true. If you are taking this serious, or if you want other people to take you seriously, you need to have a website. I've had many times where I looked at an artist's work and thought, wow, they were awesome. Tried to find their website, they didn't have one. And it's like, okay, well, this person's probably not that serious, so this is not somebody I personally would want to buy into. You've got to have a website. And there are plenty of free options. There's Wix and Weebly and different sites that have free options available. Have that if that's all you can do right now. You need something though. My next tip, figure out who your target audience is, that target market is, and hang out where they hang out. Are you doing pet portraits? Then you may want to set up a vendor booth at dog shows. That would make a whole lot more sense than setting up a vendor booth at a random art fair, because you're really hitting that target market of people who want pet portraits. If that's what you do, this is where you would want to go. And that's not to say that setting up an art booth at a generalized art and craft fair isn't okay to do. It's that if you have to make the choice on which one do you want to go to, the dog show is going to have more people who are interested in what you have to sell, because then you basically have all dog lovers. Whereas if you're at a generalized art and craft show, some people are there because they only really like the crafts. Some people are there because they like landscapes. If that's not what you do, then you're hitting a lot of people who are not your target audience, versus this group where almost everybody is your target audience. So think about that. If you're talking about sharing your artwork in different art groups, are you painting kids? Do you paint a lot of kids? Then if you can get, or if you have friends who have kids who are in like mommy type groups, have them post your work. It usually works better if you have a friend post it than you post it, because then you seem spammy if you do it yourself. Whereas if a friend does it, people are like, wow, that's awesome. Think about where your target audience is and go to those places. And I know what everyone's going to say, well, I want everybody to like my artwork. My artwork is for everybody. Yeah, that's not going to work. You are not going to get as many sales as you will if you can figure out who your artwork is for and then target those people. You don't need everyone to like your work. You need your target audience to like your work, because that's where the sales come from. The next thing you can do to make money is to teach classes locally. I made a video about this recently. I'll have a card pop up here so you can check that out. But get started teaching those classes. I know that you're afraid, thinking, why would anyone want to learn from me? Start with kids. That's what I did. When I first started teaching, my focus really was on teens and preteens. But this can oftentimes lead to a more steady income, whereas when you're selling paintings, you really don't always know when something's going to sell. But if you know you have students, it makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to pay your bills. And do teach those classes on YouTube. Start making videos. Realistically, when you first start making videos, you're not going to have a ton of people watching them. So I think don't be so intimidated thinking, oh my gosh, millions of people are going to see this. Probably not. You'll probably get, 20 people, 30 people seeing it to start with. And that's even if you're lucky. It can be hard to get people to see your early videos. So you can do an absolutely terrible job on that video and not that many people are going to see it. But do it anyway. Start. And again, it does take time to build up that following. So don't wait until the moons are all aligned and everything in your life is perfect to start making videos. Start making them right now. When I started making videos, it was on this cheap little flip cam that I still have somewhere. I need to post photos of it. It's hilarious. But that's what I started with. That's what got me started. My first few videos were done just with that. Then I spent a little bit more money and got another camera that worked a little bit better. Still wasn't the best, but you'll work your way up to that. And I know a lot of people will say, well, I'm not good on camera. I wasn't either. You don't start out being comfortable on camera. It takes time, which kind of works out well that you only get maybe 20 people who watch the video. It's not quite as embarrassing there. And YouTube has a reputation for having people leave really nasty comments, and yeah, occasionally you'll get them. But most of the people who are going to watch your videos are going to be grateful for them, that you're teaching them, that you're showing them how to do something that they did not previously know how to do. So that is one thing I'd say do not put off. Get started with that now. My last tip is get your social media platforms started now. Now, you do not have to be involved in all of them. Pick one or two that you are really interested in and focus on those. For me, my main focus at this point is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Google Plus would be next on the list, although I've just been too busy to really post on much of anything lately. So I really focus on those three: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those I've had the best results with, and partly just because that's what I focus on. Originally, I was doing Tumblr and a few other things. I just stopped. I didn't have time to do it right. It would have taken all day to post to every social media the way it should be done if you want to grow those. So pick the couple, 1, 2, 3 at max platforms that you really want to focus on and post there. Start building that following now. And it takes time. Don't be frustrated that you're not instantly getting thousands of likes or hundreds of likes. It's going to take time to build that following. That isn't necessarily a reflection on how good or bad your artwork is. It's more to do with your marketing skills and how often you're posting and how you're posting and that sort of thing. But get started with that now. Now, as far as Patreon goes, I love Patreon. It's something that I think is a great goal for everyone to get involved in. The thing is, I would say, don't start with it now. If you don't have the following now, there's no reason to make Patreon and put all the work into it. Even if you get 1 or 2 people to sign up right away, Patreon's a lot of work. Depending on what rewards you set up, it is a lot of work. And so doing that much work, let's say you're putting 20 or 30 hours into Patreon a week and you're only really making back $15 a month, is that going to be worth it to you at that point? I would say wait until you get a bit of a following on social media, especially with YouTube. If people don't know who you are, they're not going to sign up on Patreon. A lot of artists are setting up the Patreon accounts thinking people are just going to swarm in and throw money at them. You don't get found on Patreon like you would on eBay. With eBay, you can post a listing and people can scroll through it and potentially find a painting that they're interested in buying, and even if they don't know anything about you or who you are, they'll still buy. Patreon doesn't really work that way. A lot of people try to make it work that way. It just doesn't. There are search features on Patreon, but the majority of people who will sign up for you aren't going to find you that way. The majority of people, and I mean serious majority, we're not talking 50-50, I'm talking almost everybody who signs up on Patreon are going to find you because you sent them there. But if people don't know who you are, you don't have anyone to send there, so it's just too much work too soon. Patreon is a great goal. But again, start with the social media now. Start with your YouTube channel now. Get that going so that when you do start up with Patreon, you'll get more signups right away, which is going to make all the work you do for Patreon actually pay enough to make it worth doing. One of my biggest tips for you is if you are going to be leaving your current job, if you are not going to have income, I would so recommend at least getting a part-time job. Get something because when you're trying to make it as an artist and you suddenly have to make money, but you've never made a living as an artist before, you've never really made much income with it, it's almost impossible. You'll make some money to start off with, yes, but probably not enough to pay your bills, and that is one of the most discouraging things. And I've seen so many artists give up on making a career as an artist because they did it wrong. They did it kind of backwards. They were starting off trying to make their full living from scratch, from zero. Don't start at zero expecting to make a living on art, no matter how hard you push to start with. It takes time to build that following to get to that point. So make it easier on yourself. Unless you have a big savings or some other form of income, I would say get a part-time job, get something so that you can still pay your bills, can still buy art supplies. It'll make it much easier on you and much less stress than trying to make a living with your art when you have no other source of income. I have a frequently asked questions page over on my website. If you cannot find the answer to your question, there is a section where you can submit a question to be featured in one of these videos. I will have a card pop up here so you can check that out. Oh my gosh, this video is way too long. We'll just wrap this up quickly. If you've not already, please subscribe. There's a button right there that you can hit to keep up to date with all 5 of my new art videos every single week. Bye!